Welcome to Slasher Sunday. Tonight we're going to be taking on Happy Death Day, which is getting a sequel here on Wednesday, which I am definitely looking forward to, even though I have avoided almost everything on it except for maybe the first 20 seconds of the first trailer that was released, which I saw in the theater, and I had no idea that that trailer was even coming out. I knew that the film was in production, but I did not know that it had already had a trailer released. I didn't see anything about it online. So when it started, I thought maybe I was seeing a trailer for Happy Death Day again. And then I got some stuff spoiled for me and I was like, holy shit, this is the sequel? And I covered my eyes. I already saw too much in like 20 seconds, but it is what it is. But anyways, this is a film that, you know, because it was PG-13 and because it was a slasher film, and because it was borrowing a premise that's been used a couple times, to say the least now, I was not expecting a lot, but I was cautiously optimistic. I was like, fuck it. You know, why not? Let's go in. Let's have a good time. And I really, really enjoyed the hell out of it. Now, that being said, I will say the one thing that would have made this movie better would have been an R rating. It's not necessary because I do still like the film a good deal, and rewatching it this time, I also had pretty much the same amount of fun I had the first time. I really do like this movie. But imagining that all of her kills, which I counted 10 deaths of hers, if I would have got to see every one of those, it would have been better. I mean, it would have just been more fun for me personally. And to see her do that nude scene walking through the little courtyard thing there, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have minded that either. But yeah, I don't know. You know, of course I always want an R rating, but as I said, not absolutely necessary. All right, so this movie starts off with a Universal logo on loop. The first time I did a video on this, a spoiler-free review, I did a little cute joke at the beginning where I did like the intro like 3 times. I like when logos play into the film. It happens on a lot of films, and I don't know, I always appreciate it. So anytime a logo of the company plays into the film somehow, I dig it. And the song in the trailer for When She Wakes Up is different than the one in the movie. This is what we all know by now, because that trailer, that song really plays into the trailer a lot, so you get so used to it. And when it's jarring when you see the movie, because you're expecting that other song and it's not there, and it's this fucking, you know, it's my birthday song or whatever. And I found it very funny that in the second trailer, you know, or the second film's trailer, which I saw, as I said, I covered my eyes, but I still heard it. They used the song that isn't used in the movie in the trailer again. So the trailer has continuity with each other, but not continuity with the films. It's kind of odd, but it's a marketing thing, and I think that I don't know, what would you do at that point? Knowing that your audience knows that isn't the song, but then the continuity wouldn't match up for trailers. I don't know. I don't know what I would do in that situation, but it does make them flow together, the trailers, well. So I guess that's the right move. I just find it odd. I love that when she wakes up in this kid's place here, that he has a Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie poster. This kid, who's like, what, 20 years old, 17, or no, he's not 17, probably 19, 20 years old, knows of Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie? Really? Wow, that's awesome. I mean, he would have been born, you know, probably after that movie came out. Not that that's, you know, of course, my favorite fucking film of all time was made 4 years before I was alive, so that's not impossible. It's just, I don't know, I don't really hear any 20-year-olds talking about Mystery Science Theater 3000 before the revival on Netflix. None. And even that one, I don't hear any younger kids talking about all that much. But he also has a Repo Man poster, a They Live poster, and this interesting looking Back to the Future poster, which I had a hard time making out. I kept looking at it. And I have the Blu-ray, you know, like I have high def shit here. So I was like really looking. And then I realized what it was because of the DeLorean, because I couldn't read the print on what the hell I was looking at. I was like, what is that title? But it's a Back to the Future poster. So this kid has some pretty cool taste in movies. I like that Tree, the main character, which the teacher calls her Teresa in this. So is her name actually Teresa? Because why would the teacher call her Teresa if her name was Tree? He would be like, this is my student Tree. So I think that's her nickname. Because everyone's like, Tree, what a weird fucking name. What a weird name. But as I said, it's not, I don't think. I don't know if we actually see her name written like on a documentation where we would see her real name, like her driver's license. It might be featured in the movie really quick. I think it might be. So I'd have to look at that, but I didn't catch it. But I don't think her name's actually Tree. And I know a lot of people were like, why'd you name her that? But whatever, it's, you know, give her a different name. I was trying to figure out a reason, maybe like Tree, multiple lives, they live for, you know, I was like trying to go through my mind of how that could work into it, giving her that name, but I didn't come up with much. So if you got a theory on that, if there is one, I don't know, give it to me. And I like how Carter comes, because, okay, the problem I have with films like this, and it's a minor gripe, it doesn't hurt my enjoyment of the movies at all, but I always have to acknowledge it and notice it. Movies like Groundhog's Day or any other film that takes on this premise. The timing doesn't line up. It just doesn't. Like, in this movie, it's a little better. The one consistency, for the most part, is Carter's roommate, which I don't know if we ever get that guy's name. The Asian kid with the blonde hair who comes in with the fine vagina or whatever. She exits the room the first time and runs into him when she shouldn't have. He should have been 10 seconds behind at least, because she almost instantly runs out of the room one of the first times. But later, there's maybe 3 more times where she runs out of the room before he gets there, and he's not to the door yet. So his timeline is wonky. He kind of lines up, kind of doesn't. Then all the other stuff, the girl for, you know, trying to stop global warming, and the dude looking at her with his glasses, and the kids on the lawn with the sprinklers, and the guy who falls over for the pillow, and the car alarm, and all that stuff. And the guy hiding behind that comes out creepily to talk to her. She runs out of there once. A couple times, actually. And those people are still in those same positions to where they should have been from 30 seconds. I get that it's for the audience, but someone like me, who's very Mr. Continuity and blah, 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 those people should have been further away. That's, you know, an issue I have with Groundhog Day, is that in Groundhog Day, I think I mentioned this maybe in my last review of this movie, but I'm going to mention it again here. There's no way that Bill Murray's character in that movie could have gotten to the festival thing with donuts before the chick shows up. Because he ran there right when he woke up in the beginning of the, you know, in the beginning where he wakes up out of it, runs straight there. And it's the same sequence. She's already there. So how does he go get donuts? You know, this isn't a review of that movie, but that kind of stuff bothers me. It's like, no, you've set these rules. Like, stick to it. This film does a pretty damn good job of it, though. It actually does it better than Groundhog Day in that regard. I feel like the timelines, she does alter things, which does then alter events around it a little better. I love that Tree is a bitch. I love that she's like the final girl. She's the main protagonist girl in the movie. And usually that girl is a sweetheart. She's innocent. She's this and that. And even with today's standards, even with today's take on the final girl, yes, they make her a little more racy and a little more of this, but they're almost always genuinely sweet, nice people. And it's not that Tree is completely void of a good character at all. We find out throughout the film why she is the way that she is. She had this relationship with her mother. Her mother died, and she took it extremely poorly. I have to wonder, though, if her mom, because they had the same birthday, did she die and relive her death over and over and over again and then not be able to solve what happened, and so she stayed dead? You know? Possible? Maybe. And Tree broke the cycle that her mom couldn't, although spoilers for the sequel, the 2 seconds I saw the trailer, we know that Tree has to yet again go into that. As far as the whole dying, repeating thing over and over again, which makes it a little different than something like Groundhog's Day, because that's just, he wakes up, the day repeats no matter what. We don't know what would have happened if she could have locked herself in a padded cell for a month or 2 months. Would she die and go back to that same day? Does she just have to go through the day, or does she have to stop her, like, killer? Does she have to actually kill her killer? Does she have to stay away from her killer for a certain amount of time? If the day had reset and the killer found her, would she not go back because she already passed the allotted time for her to reset? You know, like, there's so many questions you could ask here. And of course, me being me, I have to go nuts with it and ask too many questions. But, yeah, the way they set this up and the way that they make this different is that they put a little sense of urgency onto it. Because as the kid, Carter says to her, like, well, then you can just, you know, keep reliving the same day. And she's like, I'm supposed to die, you know, up until I can find out who my killer is, over and over again. And so they throw in this whole, she's retaining some of her injuries. The doctor looks at her chart and is like, you should be dead. And it's like, well, why isn't she if she should be dead? Like, she has sustained enough internal injuries, but I guess there's scar tissue of whatnot. So she's retaining the scar tissue inside. So I like that that's brought into the film, but it's really never addressed again in the movie. She says she's getting weaker, but we don't really see any of that. And she gets so weak that she passes out. Then the next day, she should then pass out again because she would have the same injuries that made her pass out before. So that's a little weird. And as I said, it doesn't really play into the film because she's pretty aggressive and pretty energy fueled when she's going after these people. Yes, it's an adrenaline thing, but her injuries don't really play. I like that it's put in the movie, but it isn't really played upon past that moment when she wakes up in the hospital. She mentions it one more time, and that's really it. We don't really see that acknowledged much anymore. And of course, my next question would be, if she dies from her injuries inside, would she not then just wake up again? Like, how would her death be different? If you die from the injuries that reside within you from the repeated deaths, does that death kill you forever? Or do you just wake up from those injuries, having those injuries again, and then just live on a cycle of dying every 2 seconds and waking up in this fucking, you know, perpetual hell cycle? Yes, I'm fucking way overthinking this concept, but when they decided, when they were like, well, she'll just die if she doesn't figure this out, and it's like, we see her die all the fucking time. So what would happen if she died from those injuries? Wouldn't she just wake up again? So, as I said, I like its introduction because it changes things and it gives the story a little more urgency, because you would be asking, well, what does it even matter? There's no urgency. She can die a million fucking times. She has unlimited lives. And that isn't true, but isn't it? I mean, she would wake up again if she died. So I don't know. It's kind of a conundrum onto itself. Anyway, let's get back. So the baby mask in the movie, I actually, when I saw it on the poster or art or whatever, I thought it was kind of silly, but in the film, I like it. It's a cool mask. The teacher that she's having the little affair with, as I said, I like that she's a shitty person. She's fucking her friend's love interest, Danielle, the bitch. She's such a bitch. But she's into this guy. She tells Tree they're supposed to be best friends. She knows she's into him, and she goes for the guy anyways. It's a shitty thing to do, while she's also fucking some married man in the school, which isn't a great thing to do. I'm not trying to get up on my high horse and say that we're all perfect. I mean, we've all had our issues, and we've done things that we're probably not proud of. But they don't make her a flawless character. She's very flawed. She's doing things to feel something because of the lack of emotion that she has because of her mother. She's trying to bury it. I mean, it's a typical thing that people do when they're fucked up. And so, yeah, I dig that about her. Danielle. A lot of the characters in this movie are very funny. I like them a lot. Her suspect list investigation montage, I love. That's my favorite part of the movie. It was my favorite part of the movie in the theater, and it was my favorite part of the movie in here. She's going through her list. She's fucking checking it twice. I almost said that. Holy shit. I'm fucking in Christmas now. But she's going through her list. She's looking through that guy's fucking window. She finds out he's homosexual, or at least has homosexual tendencies. I love when she calls him out later. We'll get to that scene because I love that sequence as well. It's probably my second favorite sequence. I don't know, that's kind of almost tied for me. But then she goes and she confronts Danielle, and they get into a big struggle, and they get thrown out into the bus pathway and both of them get killed. I'm not really sure how she crossed Danielle off the list from her attacking her and then them getting hit by a bus. I don't know why that cleared Danielle as a suspect. She didn't really learn anything. They got into a fight, they fell out into the street, and both died. How does that make Danielle innocent? She could have still been the killer. And the homosexual guy, he could have still been the killer as well. He's just gay. Maybe he doesn't want her to expose his secret, or maybe he has, these tendencies and he takes it out on the women that he doesn't find attractive enough to cure him of his homosexual desires. There's all sorts of fucking wacky ways this could have went. So the way she marks these things off, it just doesn't really work. With the gay guy, Mark, what's his name? It doesn't matter what his name is. I think maybe she turns around and gets killed right there, so it couldn't have been him. So I think that does eliminate him, but I do like that whole scenario where he's killing her because she's not breaking his gay spell. I like when I come up with ridiculous shit like that. But hey, I'm sure that's happened in the world. I can't remember. Does she die right after? It could. So that would eliminate him. But the bus thing does not eliminate Danielle at all. So I don't exactly know what that is. But that's a really funny sequence. I love when she sees that he's gay and she looks and she's like, her facial expressions, her performance, and this is great. She gives so many different forms of performance here. She's this total bitch. She's a total sweetheart. She has these really funny facial expressions. She has this total I don't give a fuck attitude when she's walking down the courtyard and she's naked and she's like, her fucking, facial expressions and her mannerisms and all that stuff is really funny. She's a very likable character, even when she's being extremely unlikable. And that's what another great thing about this girl in the movie is she's even funny and kind of weirdly likable when she's not supposed to be. She's a bitch, but you're still kind of drawn to her because she's so blasé about it. She's so casual about how shitty she is that it's comedic. And so she plays that very well. And as I said, when she finds out he's gay and she's just like, oh, and she's like talking to herself, like, now I get it. I think it's fucking hilarious. It made me laugh this time and last time. There's so many red herrings in this movie, which with a whodunit, which is kind of the basis of a slasher. That's one of the best things about slashers. It's a whodunit, a lot of them. That was more of the giallo thing, and then American slashers came out, and there's a lot of American slashers that are, in essence, a murder mystery whodunit. And there's the only thing that really, I guess, separates those two types of films is a lot of gore and he's like cool ideas for kills and gratuitous nudity. And usually some pretty shitty acting as well. But yeah, I like that there's a ton of red herrings in this flick. It's funny. You're like, you kind of can come up with a lot of reasons for why this person might be doing it, why this person might be doing it, why this person. Personally, when I was watching this movie the first time, the person I thought it was, and watching this on the second viewing, I actually thought it was pretty clear and pretty obvious that her roommate was the killer. And I'm surprised that I think maybe I had suspicions in the beginning, and then they really just don't focus on her almost at all anymore throughout the rest of the film. So maybe she just kind of got lost in the shuffle of all the other red herrings, which is probably exactly what happened. But when I saw this with Jen, I looked over and I thought it was going to be the cute little Asian chick with the headphones sitting out who kept saying hi to her and she was ignoring her. I was like, that's going to be her right there. You never fucking acknowledge my existence. I'm going to make you acknowledge me now. But I thought the reveal in this movie, I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but I thought the reveal in this movie, the actual reveal, was awesome. I was really surprised because when it connected and they showed the pieces and why and how and all that, I was like, because I had some questions once it started connecting. I was like, what? How could? And then they explained it and I was like, oh, that actually really works. That's actually really smart. That's cool. I really like that. So I actually thought the payoff here, the reveal and the twist ending, I thought really worked out very, very well. So I did like that a ton. I really like the shot of the death of her getting hit in the head with a baseball bat and falling into the bed and then waking up. And here's another thing. I thought that this was interesting to bring up. Now, I don't know what all resets when she wakes up. Yes, I'm going to go into the reset thing again in another theory or two. How could I not? But when she wakes up, it doesn't seem like, because she's dying and instantly waking up, and she wakes up in a flurry, like, oh my God, she's frantic, of course. The first few times at least, because she's being killed. Then she kind of gets used to it. But she dies and immediately wakes up. And she lives an entire day, dies, immediately wakes up, lives an entire day for the most part, dies, wakes up. Is she resting? Is she sleeping at all? When she's waking up, is she waking up to the 8 hours of sleep or so? She probably didn't get 8 hours. But whatever it is, the 5 hours or the 2 hours, the 6 hours, does she get that sleep every time she wakes up? Or is she on a streamline of, like, by the time she's done with this movie, at 10 deaths, living almost at least 7 or 8 days straight without a moment of rest? Got to factor that in here. She's literally just been alive, like awake, boom, dead, wakes up frantic. She's been awake for like 8 straight days. So does her body sort of rejuvenate from the sleep she got from the day before that we haven't seen in 8-10 days by the end of this movie? I don't know. I was thinking about that when I was watching. I was like, she wakes up instantly, no sleep. Is she feeling? She doesn't look super tired. She just looks flustered from dying so many times. So I think she is getting the sleep from before, but I had to bring it up because I was thinking about it throughout the film. Man, I way overthink shit. Why doesn't she just leave town to begin with? That would be my first question. I mean, at the last thing she does in this movie, on her 10th, or I guess her 11th life, when she finally finds out who the killer actually is in the film, she's deciding to just leave. She's like, fuck it, I thought maybe if I stayed around this and that. And I get it, but it's like, the only time she tried to leave, the one time, was when she took off in a car and was speeding, so she got pulled over, and then she was like, you gonna lock me up? All right, cool. That was a funny sequence. I'll get to that in a second, I think, if I remember it. But I just, like, you never decided to just get in your car and drive away from where the killer would be? You just stay in the town? Why? Like, get in a car. Drive as fast as you can. Well, not as fast as you can. She should have learned. Don't speed. But drive. Fucking out of the city. Out of the state. Out of whatever. That would have been one of my first ideas. Like, okay, I need to get the fuck out of town. Yeah, she did try it once. So I will give the movie that. And she was going to try it a second time here at the end. But get away from where the killer actually is. You know he's in that town. So it's pretty simple to avoid him by, or her, I guess, is who it ends up being. But killers are usually guys in movies. So I'm just used to it. Get the fuck out of town, right? Anyway. And yeah, I mean, getting back to the police car thing, I did remember, her being like, if I say I'm drunk, will you put me in jail? And he's like, yeah, that's usually how it works. She's like, oh, I'm drunk. Oh, and you know, I'm on drugs. You name it, I'm on it. And he's just so confused. I thought that was great. The way she delivers that, the way that the officer is playing off of her and him just being stunned by, like, I've never seen this shit before. And she's like, puts her hands behind her back. Okay, how do we do this? You know, and when he gets hit by the car for a PG-13 movie, it was pretty brutal, I thought. I mean, it's not like ridiculously or so or anything, but I was like, oh wow, that is pretty damn good. How awesome. And we get the one fuck. It's PG-13 movie. You get one fuck. It's in the car when it blows up. I always am looking for it. Anytime I watch a PG-13 movie, I'm like, who gets the fuck? Usually if it's Samuel Jackson in a movie, he gets it. He's just like, he's got that on retainer. He's like, just so you know, if it's a PG-13 movie, I get the fuck. It's in my contract. Probably is in his contract. It's an evil fucking room. I like when the fuck is used well in a movie because you get the one, right? So it's a finite thing. It's like you get to use it once. So use it well. So yeah. Yeah, that's why when Live Free, Die Hard came out, he was like, it's PG-13. What the fuck? John McClane. His line is, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. And I'm like, well, he does get to say it. He gets to say it once. Although in that one, they cover it up by saying fucker, and he shoots right when he says it. So I don't know if you're not allowed to say fucker. You're only allowed to say fuck. Someone tell me what the rules are on that. Because I found it very odd that he didn't finish that line. He said fuck and his gun went off. Anyway, we're not here to talk about fucking Die Hard 4. But yeah, anyway. And blah, blah, blah. I already talked about all that. I talked about a lot. And her deaths, wake-ups in this, when she has the fire in her eyeball and she pops up alive, that reminded me a lot of Final Destinations when they have their premonitions. So this had some Final Destination plan into it. I love that she goes, like, I love how just free she is. As I said, she walks through the courtyard naked, she's doing all the shit, and then she goes, hangs out with Carter, and she's just like, she burps, and he's like, what was that? And she's just like, farts this long fart. As I said, she's just so not traditional, and I love it. I love that about her. Yeah, and then you have this killer setup, which is very convenient. But as I said, once it ends and it plays into what the reveal is of her being like, I didn't eat the cupcake, so you had to come up with something different. So a killer was brought into the hospital you work in, which we already established earlier in the movie. You thought it was the perfect scapegoat. So you put the mask next to him, the knife that you killed her with, whatever. I don't know why the mask would be with him, right next to him, or by him, when she's still not even dead or anywhere near death at that point in the movie, but that's just convenience. I don't really care, to be completely honest. But I did like the explanation. I was like, oh, come on, how convenient. But because of how they play it, because she works at the hospital, because she already tried to kill her earlier in the day with the cupcake, it didn't work. So she had to come up with something else, and she needed to kill her on that day. In that moment, she was just relentless about it. I thought it actually played very, very well. The fact that she goes after the killer, and Carter dies, and she has the killer, who she thinks is the killer, dead to rights. And she's like, she actually cares and goes and is like, oh my God, if I don't reset, Carter will be dead in this reality. I have to kill myself, which is much harder than it would seem. Even if you knew it was going to reset, I think killing yourself would still be psychologically very tough of a barrier to cross. It's one thing to be murdered because you're not doing that, but to tie a rope around your neck and just be 100% sure that you're just going to wake up from it, I don't know. There would be a hesitation, but she does it without hesitation. But I love that she has that connection with him enough that she would kill herself to, to save him. I thought that was very sweet. And another thing that I liked about it is it played with an alternate reality. I always talk about how I wish I could see alternate realities of things to see what people would and would not do, myself included. I would love to put myself in alternate realities into specific situations to see how I would actually react to something. And in this way, she does get to see how Carter reacts to something. She gets to see that if a killer was coming after her, this guy really would sacrifice his life, or at least put his life on the line to save this girl, barely having even known her, showing her that he is a genuine hero. And when she talks to Danielle later, she says that she, will have, if she can get through this day, she'll have his babies, And I get that in that moment because she realized that this guy is willing to go to any lengths to protect her because he's a great guy. Not just because he's into her, he barely knows this girl, but because he's a fucking hero. And how often do you get to prove that you're a hero by dying and get the girl because you're alive in an alternate reality? It's trippy shit, but I really liked it in here. And I already talked about all that. The teacher's a total fucking dick. The shit he says to her out there, he's awful. I'm so glad she breaks it off with him. And watching her live her perfect day where she wakes up and she goes out and she signs that girl's thing and she's like, you saved the world, honey. And that girl just, runs off all ecstatic. You can see how happy she is from having someone acknowledge her in the way she wanted to be acknowledged after seeing how many times she's turned down from her and how upset she gets, because I'm sure she's been told to fuck off many times from other people. So that's sweet. She goes and she says that guy with the pillow. She goes and sees her dad. She goes over and she pours the fucking drink on top of Daniel's stupid ass head, telling her to shut the fuck up, and standing up for the girl who wanted to just come and eat at a table. It's a very cool moment. I really like it. It's that moment where you can see Tree, and she walks up and she kisses Carter in front of everyone after having pulled him aside like 2 feet. That was such a funny scene. He comes over to her and she's like, he says something about, something she doesn't want them to hear. So she pulls him aside like 2 feet over, like for some reason right here, all my friends are going to hear what you're saying, but 2 feet over here, we're not going to hear. I thought that was stupid, but whatever. It's just a fucking movie in that way. But yeah, she kisses him. So we see these huge leaps and bounds that she makes. I guess, yeah, people have complete changes after one near-death experience. I know I sure as fuck did. But this girl's had 8 by this point, I want to say, when she does this perfect day. I really like those. Very, very satisfying for me. I think I said most of them. Oh, and then, yeah, so she kills the killer. She thinks she is done. And then she wakes up and you're like, what the fuck? And she's like, what the fuck? And you don't get it. And then when she finds the cupcake and you realize she died in her sleep, I thought that was a great twist in that moment. It's like she finally ate the cupcake that she threw away so many times in a row. And she eats it not knowing what it was, killing her in her sleep, and her being super confused, like, holy shit, I gotta continue to keep living this day no matter what, even if I kill the killer. And then she puts it together. It's a great moment. It's part of that twist that then plays into the larger twist of the scapegoat and all of that. And then the final fight between them is great. Daniel's coming to the door for some comedic elements of like, what are you bitches doing in there? And then she's fucking like, sticks the cupcake in her mouth, and the girl's freaking out about the cupcake, and when she grabs onto the chandelier, kicks her out the window, falls down, blood splatters. You see her mangled body on the ground down there. Tree fucking reigns supreme. Awesome, fucking kick-ass. Now, what I found very weird on the previous day when she kills the killer after she holds a cop hostage by knife point, takes his gun, goes in, frees the killer, which they would think she did. She didn't, obviously, but that's what they would think would have happened, and shoots him to death right there. And then it just hard cuts to like her celebrating her birthday with Carter. She would have went to jail. So that's a really odd sequence. You hold a cop at knife point, take his gun, and go in and kill the protected prisoner. You're going to jail for murder. Okay? Or whatever, manslaughter, something. You are at least going to jail till you can explain yourself. The fact she just goes straight back to her fucking room with Carter is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And why her roommate didn't kill her after she killed the killer. Maybe she tried to. Maybe she came in to try to stab her body, but she'd already been poisoned and died. I don't know. But I just thought that scene was a little off. And I was like, huh? She just got away with doing that? Sure, I guess. And outside of that, I mean, the other death with the roommate, they found a poisoned cupcake. I guess they could have linked that to her. How she just gets out of that and is in a restaurant with Carter like a couple hours later, bullshit. She'd be in a fucking precinct and all this. But this is a movie. Let's not go overboard. But I still have to bring that kind of stuff up because they always do it in movies. And it's just like, no fucking way. No motherfucking way. And the trick at the end with him replaying, I don't know how he would actually remember exactly how it played out from the day before. He wouldn't. He would only know that if she told him every little detail of like he was under here and she woke up to that song, and like, he wouldn't remember that, but it doesn't matter. It's funny. It's a fucked up prank though. I mean, an absolutely fucked up prank. And I also have to bring up that hopefully now that she's woken up on a second day, all the injuries she sustained that retained within her as scar tissue or whatever it is went away on that second day. Otherwise, she's still dying. So they need to address that. Not sure exactly how they're going to address that in the sequel, but I do look forward to that. And I also have to mention with the sequel, it's funny with sequels how this works, but if a film isn't successful and there's a happy ending of a movie, then that character in that movie universe gets to just be happy and okay. And if the film is successful and they have to bring that character back and then she dies or something, it's like that character then dies because the film was successful. I know that's weird and kind of probably stupid to some people, but it always, I don't know. I remember in Terminator 3 when I went and they, spoilers for Terminator 3, but at the end of Terminator 3, they actually, Judgment Day happens. We finally get to see it happen, and bombs hit and everything wipes out. And at the end of Terminator 2, they stop Judgment Day. And it was just like, oh man, if they wouldn't have made a sequel, everyone on Earth would have got to live. But because they had to make a sequel, everyone on Earth has to die. I don't know. I know that's stupid, but I've always thought about that with sequels. So yeah, call me crazy on that. Other than that, wow, I did not expect this fucking movie to run this long, but I obviously had a lot to say. I had a lot of fucking fun talking about this, and I hope you guys did too. I really look forward to the sequel coming out here in 3 days, Wednesday, yeah, so really soon. I will report back as soon as I see that, and until then, guys, have a great night. Adios.